Hermit's Cave. And here's the hermit. He was Italian. Down the steps and under the rock in front of you is a small recess. For months in 1863, it was home to religious mystic Giovanni de Agostini, born in Italy. He was the son of a nobleman and received a fine education in preparation for priesthood, but reported was forced to leave Italy after falling in love with a young lady. He left Council Grove with a Santa Fe Trail wagon train owned by Don Genio Romero, walking the entire 550 miles to Las Vegas, New Mexico. There he was said to have performed a miracle cures which attracted crowds. He retreated to a nearby mountain. Well, it's not much of a home. I guess it would keep the rain off of you. This is kind of like a little hill right in town.
A lot of deer with one of these.
And buffalo skin?
This is a buffalo robe.
Robe, okay.
This is
you would wear this as a coat.
They did make buffalo coats out of these. They made a lot of things out of buffalo robes.
A robe would be just something, just put on your bed or something?
This is just what it's called. It's called a robe.
A robe, okay.
This is a winter robe. The hair is the longest in the winter.
Right.
And so the Native Americans would have a spring-summer hunt, and they'd have a fall-winter hunt. And the fall-winter hunt was the most important because if they're going to wrap up into something,
they want something
this.
Warm.
But in the summer hunt, they would shave the hair off of them and make leather product items like teepees, clothing, and it's just leather once it's tanned.
Yeah.
It's brain tanned. There's enough brain material in every animal. There's enough brain material that you can tan that hide.
That's how they would tan them, to take the brain and...
Brain matter. And they would make a paste.
For all animals?
Every animal has enough brain matter to tan its own hide.
I didn't know that. The goods that they would have, now blankets, they would need those, the wagons.
When you say they, who are we talking about?
I'm talking about the traders or the immigrants that were on the wagon trail.
This was not an immigrant trail. The Santa Fe Trail was not.
It was a trade.
It was, yes,
trade
commerce.
Route.
It's commerce.
Yeah.
So the men that are coming through here are hired men that have been hired to take the goods from Missouri all the way to Mexico. And those wagons are already full. They filled those at the rivers at Westport and Independence. And
of all the merchandise that they plan to sell.
The businessmen who have...
Yes.
Businessmen would go back to New York, Philadelphia, New York, London, and they would buy goods and have those shipped up the river system overseas, and then eventually they would be unloaded at Westport Landing or Independence Landing.
Yes.
They would contract with a moving company, basically, to move those goods. They would load these crates and barrels into wagons from the bed clear to the top of the bonnet. Some of these wagons could hold between 2 tons and 10 tons of goods in one wagon. The 10-ton wagon, the back wheel would be 7 feet tall.
Yeah, well, those big rigs.
10 inches wide. They got bigger. The wagons kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So they would start coming down the trail. It would be about a 10-day drive from the river at Westport to Council Grove. And then once they got to Council Grove, they would wait. They would rest their animals, let them graze, do repairs on their wagons, do some hunting. There were elk around here, there were deer, there were turkey. They would harvest berries in the bushes, gather honey out of the trees, make extra ramrods for their rifles.
Made out of wood?
Hickory. Made out of hickory. And in case they broke one a couple 100 miles down the trail, they'd have an extra.
Got a spare.
And so then mainly they wait. They're waiting for other wagons to show up. So you might have one outfit pull in with 6 wagons, another one with 10, and eventually they would organize into a caravan.
Yeah. And then they'd have a guy, a wagon master, the head guy, right?
Yes, yeah. You're telling the story.
That's just what I read.
No, you're right. They would hire or elect a wagon master, and he would direct how the wagons would go down the trail. The big wagon trains would be broken down into sections with a captain or a lieutenant in charge of 20 to 25 wagons. Each section would be in charge of their own mess, their own kitchen, their own guards, and some of these wagons pulled cannons with them to deter the Native Americans from attacking as they went southwest.
It'd be a cannon on wheels?
Cannons on wheels, yes. And they would pull them behind the wagons.
Now, at nighttime, they would let the stock loose, right?
Yes.
And somebody would have to watch the stock?
Sometimes they'd have a night guard that would watch them. Sometimes the night guard would fall asleep. After 1829, most of the animals that come down the trail are oxen. Prior to that, there's a mixture of mules and horses.
Yes.
And the native peoples especially liked the mules and the horses.
Yes.
And they stole a lot of those. But once they switch over to the oxen, they don't really have a use for the oxen. And they might run them off, but they don't keep them for themselves.
Yes.
And these oxen had a bad habit. If a buffalo herd came through, they would just join up with the buffalo and just go on down there. So early on, some of these men who lost their animals would have to walk all the way back to Missouri to get new animals to bring back out to their wagons. Now that's before there's settlements along the trail early on.
Wow. Oxen, were they difficult to train, or were they kind of docile?
I think at the beginning, yes, just like any animal, there's a little bit of time period where they're a little bit difficult. They're a castrated bull, and they have to be shoed. They're a cloven hoof, so they have 2 shoes on each hoof.
2 shoes?
2 shoes are cloven hoofs. They have
is metal? You're talking about?
Metal shoes, just like on a horse or a mule.
Right.
There's a special oxen shoe that they would use. We have one on display in the visitor center of the commission.
What do we mean by front? Just the front, or all 4 hoofs?
No, I didn't say anything. I didn't use.
I misunderstood you. They'd be shod on all 4 hooves.
All 4 hooves.
Okay.
Yeah, and they cannot stand on 3 legs. So along some of the places they would have a rack that they would hold the oxen up by their belly while they shoot them, because if you pick up one leg, they fall over. They cannot stand on 3 legs. And so if you didn't have a rack, you would throw a rope over a tree and hoist them up. If you didn't have a tree, you would dig a trench in the ground and flip them in that trench on their back so that you could shoe them.
And how did you get them out? With a lot of
ropes
and pulling?
Yeah.
Wow. And so what would be the average weight of an oxen?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know that.
They're pretty big animals, aren't they?
Well, they're castrated bulls, so
yeah. And so they would, I guess they were easier. They would graze, just put them out and graze at night, and they'd have to hobble them or anything?
No, they wouldn't hobble them. And actually, they graze them during the day, too, as they're going down the trail.
Yeah.
They would stop about 10 or 11 o'clock, and they called it nooning. That's why we call 12 noon.
Yes.
That's from this earlier form called nooning. And they would stop and have breakfast, and then they would let their animals graze during this time period. Right. And then they would continue on.
Because they would start at daybreak, I guess.
Well, they start before daybreak sometimes.
Wow.
Sometimes real early in the morning. And then they drove an extra herd of cattle alongside or behind. They were called the cavvy. and those are extra oxen that can be used if you have a sore-footed one or one that's broken a leg or sick or it has died. And you can exchange them as you're going down the trail. You might have a couple hundred head that you're driving alongside of the big wagon trains. And nobody rode in the wagons on the Santa Fe Trail.
Everybody walked.
Everybody walked, except some of them that were on horses. You had a bullwhacker who walked alongside the oxen with a big whip, about a 2-foot handle, 16 to 20-foot whip that he would pop over the top of their heads as they're going down the trail. And they had voice commands: gee, haw, ho, left, right, stop. And these oxen would learn these, just like a dog. They would learn these voice commands. Or they'd have a big long stick that they would tap on the left shoulder or the right shoulder of the lead oxen to get them to go left or get them to go right. Now, eventually, the Santa Fe Road, you start to see swells or ruts, detention in the ground. And so these oxen could easily stay within this. They knew that they needed to stay in these indentions in the ground.
So there was no reins or anything like on the horses. It was just oxen.
No, just chains between each yoke to the next yoke. And so you had two oxen in a yoke, and there would be a big ring hanging down with a chain going from one to the other. And that's how they pulled those wagons. Now, if you had a mule train, which there were some mule trains, the rider would ride on the mule on the left side closest to the wagon. And he would have reins that would control all the mules in this one position.
Because they would have to step over the chains when they go around curves and stuff.
Right.
I'm familiar with the 20 mule team.
Yes. And so this is called a mule skinner, the guy who's on there. Some historians believe that that's why our steering wheels are on the left side of our cars, is because this early steering mechanism that were on the mules.
And at nighttime when they camped out, did they have tents?
Most of these men slept on the ground underneath the wagons.
Underneath the wagon. So if it rained,
they
got wet?
They did get in the wagons because the wagons are full of all this stuff.
Right.
They're hired men, and so some of the wealthy businessmen who traveled along with their wagons prior to slavery being abolished would have their servants who would set up tents, beds, tables, all the fine eateries that they needed. But most of these men that traveled past this store are just hired men. And so they're not eating very well until they get to buffalo country. And once they reach buffalo country, then they start hunting buffalo every day.
And they would have fresh meat if they had a kill.
They'd send 1 or 2 hunters off to kill 2 or 3 buffalo every day, cut out the choice cuts, and bring them back to the camp, and they would eat buffalo meat.
And that would be the evening meal?
Probably the evening meal, yes. And that's when most of the men lost their lives, is when they left the safety of the wagon train. Either going out to hunt buffalo or go out to find water. Jedediah Smith, one of the most famous mountain men that we have, was with the Santa Fe Trail wagon train, left to go find water and was never seen again. And the Comanches got him. And we know it because the Comanches had his guns and traded them to some Mexicans. And that story got passed down, how he was killed by the Comanches.
So that was, it would be, the Indians were the danger if you went out by yourself or went out hunting.
Native tribes, native peoples certain tribes were more hostile than others. And if you left the safety of the wagon train, there's a good chance you may not come back.
I was reading that each one would have a tin plate and a knife, but they didn't have forks and spoons.
No, most of them probably didn't. Some of them may have. This is what a knife would have looked like back then. An knife. That's
pretty good size, isn't it?
And the forks look a little different than what we're accustomed to. These are bone. This is bone. Horn. And this is a spoon. They would be responsible for their plate. They ate a lot of beans, a lot of rice, and they ate a lot of salt pork. This is a replica of what a salt pork.
So they would have that for breakfast, probably.
Well, no.
All meals.
Yeah, they'd have to slice it and then boil it. It was so salty you couldn't eat it just the way it was, because that's how they preserved it. It was tremendously salty.
Yes.
They called it Old Ned, and if you were wealthy or doing well, you had Old Ned. If you weren't doing well, you didn't have Old Ned. But this was a standby that most of them used. They drank a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
And they smoked and chewed a lot of tobacco.
So they'd always have a stash of tobacco with them.
Yeah, the state wouldn't allow me to put tobacco in here. I wanted to display. It would be in a rope, kind of like this rope here.
Yeah, I'm from North Carolina. I'm familiar with
you know
tobacco.
exactly what I'm talking about. The beans were not roasted like they are today. They were green beans, green coffee beans.
Right.
And you'd have to, every time you needed to do it, you'd have to get your skillet out and roast your green coffee beans, and then grind it, and then have your coffee.
That's a lot of work, wasn't it?
Well, everything was a lot of work back then.
Well, so they had a mess cook?
Yes.
That would be his sole job?
Yeah. Everybody had duties on the wagon train. Right. And if you were chosen to be the cook, that's what you did. You cooked.
Yes.
And
that was like a special. Each one was a special.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't a bad job compared to some of the other jobs that you had. So, I don't think they ate high on the hog. I think they made a lot of biscuits, and they had molasses.
Yes.
Molasses was a big
treat.
thing.
That was a treat.
Oh, yeah, you had to have something sweet, as we do today. I know I like to have a lot of sweet stuff. But yeah, these men are they're doing a job. And some of them, early on, when the Santa Fe Trail begins in 1821, when a few years after that, when we start to see a lot of activity on the trail, once they got down into Mexico, down into Taos, and down into Santa Fe, they stayed. They
didn't come back.
Once they got paid, they liked what they saw down there. They liked the climate. They liked the women. So
they get married and settle down.
Some of them never came back. Some of them just relocated down.
Well, how long what was the turnaround time when they'd get there? Would they stay a month, or how long would they stay?
Well, these are hired men. They're getting paid.
No, I mean the wagon trains itself.
Well, some of these owners, once they got down there, they'd have to sell their goods.
Right.
If they didn't have a store, some of these businessmen had established stores or trading posts. If you didn't have a trading post, then you'd have to just sell it out of the back of your wagon.
And it might take
a couple, 3 months or more to do that. Now, some of these owners of these wagons, these shipping companies, and some of the businessmen, you could buy a wagon back in Missouri for $150 and sell it in Mexico for $500 to $700. And so the Mexicans didn't have any metal. They didn't have any forges to create steel or iron. So they would sometimes take these wagons and burn them so they could get the metal off the wagon so that they could then repurpose it for something else.
Wow.
Plus,
pretty valuable metal in there.
Yeah, they had a lot of gold. They had a lot of silver. And they sometimes would sell everything. They'd sell the animals, sell the wagons, and then go back to Missouri and buy another wagon, buy more animals, and do it all over again.
So they would have to walk back?
No, they'd have horses that they would ride.
Oh, yeah, they would get,
They would get horses or mules and ride back to... it could take up to 2 months to make the trip from Missouri to Santa Fe. They got faster over time. Just like in today, when we go the same route, we try to go a little bit faster the next time, try to find a little bit better shortcut.
Yeah.
And, they got faster at it.
And after a while, they would have designated stopping points or campground sites.
Yeah, and that's what Council Grove was early on, before it was settled.
It
became the most popular camping area spot on the Santa Fe Trail.
Wow.
Because there was good water here, there was good timber here, there was game. And so this became, and this was the last safe place before you went southwest. Your hair was pretty safe here.
Yes.
Beyond here, you might lose your hair.
Well, Mark, where did they cross the river at?
There's a spot marked down on the river. We have a river walk.
Yes, I went on that, but
there's a little concave on the east side.
Yes, I remember that.
That's where the crossing's at.
Oh, okay.
But you got to remember that river channel has been changed.
Yes, it's got levees on it.
Yeah, 1929, 1930, they straightened the river out, dug it down deeper, and raised the banks up higher.
Yes.
Originally, it would have been a nice, gentle slope going down to the river, and same way on the other side.
Yes.
People think, well, those wagons would have had a hard time getting up out of that, and they would have if it would have been like that, but it wasn't. It wasn't like that. It still was difficult. These are heavy wagons, but the crossing here at Council Grove had a rock bottom, and so it made it a lot easier to get across. And so
now, did those wagons have brakes on them?
Yes, some of them did.
So they would have a big old handle, and someone sat on the seat in the front.
Now the early wagons, some of them didn't. They used several different things. They had a log sometimes that they would put behind the wagon wheel or in front of the wagon wheel to slow it down. But again, and if they were going down a steep hill, sometimes they would put ropes on the back end, hook them to another team behind them, and slowly ease them down the river. Were there accidents? Oh, sure. Just like we have accidents every day out here on these roads. Were wagons overturned? Sure. Animals broke their legs, and men were run over by wagon wheels and drowned in the crossings. And
the river crossings, they had to, I read where they would make sure they went across the river before they stopped.
Ideally, that was the thing, because you might camp on the wrong side and the river came up in the middle of the night, and now you're stuck on the wrong side.
Yeah.
But sometimes they would arrive at that river and it's already up. And so then you have to wait 5 or 6 days for it to go down before you can get across.
Was this a bar here?
These are not original. These counters are not original to the building. These are old counters, but they're not original to the building.
Oh, it's a neat old building here. Old Bell McKinley Monument. Windstorm collapsed the wooden belfry. Vandals sledgehammered off the top portion of the old bell. In 1881, the old bell rang continually for half a day, announcing the death of martyred President of James A. Garfield. This limestone monument kept the remnant of the old bell, was erected in 1901 in silent memory of martyred President William McKinley. For many years, the old bell was erroneously accredited with having warned the settlers of Indian raids. However, Council Grove was never raided by Indians. In 1868, about 300 Cheyennes and Arapahoes in war paint passed through Council Grove to attack the cause several miles southeast of Council Grove. But apparently no one rang the bell. Look at this huge house right here. What a great porch and a back sunroom.